Giorgio Almirante was born on June 27, 1914, in Salsa Maggiore Terme, in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy. His parents were Molesian with noble ancestry, and his aunt was actress Italia Almirante Manzini. Giorgio spent his childhood traveling with his parents, who worked in the theatre, in Turin and Rome. He graduated in literature in 1937. Almirante trained as a school teacher, but went to work writing for the Rome-based fascist paper Il Tivia. He was influenced by the journalist Telesio Interlandi, who was his ideological mentor. He wrote extensively for Interlandi's journal, called The Defense of Race. He also helped to organize Benito Mussolini's Italian Social Republic, or RSI, and was appointed Chief of Cabinet of the Minister of Culture in 1944. Following their final overthrow of Mussolini, Almirante was indicted on charges that he ordered the shooting of partisans in 1944, but those charges were dropped in a general amnesty. He fled Italy after the war but returned in 1946 to set up his own small fascist party, but it was quickly absorbed into the Italian Social Movement, or MSI, which was set up the same year. He was chosen as leader of the new party due to his low profile, as the higher-ranking members of the fascist regime involved in the MSI chose to take on behind-the-scenes roles. Representing a radical faction within the party, his group lost ground as the moderate elements gained influence in the party. Almirante was forced to give way to Augusto de Marsanic as leader in 1950. Throughout the mid-1950s he was concerned by the drift towards conservatism under de Marsanic and his successor Arturo Michelini, so he resigned his position on the National Council to become a critic of the leadership. He emphasized the proletarian origins of fascism against the new conservatism and argued for quality rather than quantity in government, endorsing expert-driven elites instead of liberal democracy. But, he stopped short of their route taken by the other leading dissident Pino Rorty by remaining in the party. In his role as leader of the internal opposition, Almirante often used the tactics of the fascist black shirts, and in 1968 he was one of three leaders of a so-called punitive expedition against student radicals at the Fine Arts Department at the University of Rome. In the end, Heck was unsuccessful, and he and 200 of his followers were protected by the police. He regained party leadership in 1969 following the death of Michelini. By now his own opinions had shifted towards a more moderate position as he soon declared his support for democracy. He aimed to attract more conservative elements to the MSI, while also passing reforms that strengthened the power of the party secretary in order to preempt opposition from the radical tendency with which he had been associated. He also sought to historicize fascism and dropped the more overt references to it from MSI propaganda and rhetoric, like no longer using the black shirt and the Roman salutes. His new policy, known as the double-track strategy, wasn't aimed at making the MSI more appealing to the Christian Democrats, as had been the plan of his predecessor, but rather to move the MSI into that party's ideological space and to challenge them directly for the leadership of the Italian political right. Almirante felt that by placing anti-communism at the heart of the MSI's appeal, the party could attract both its existing followers and more moderate conservatives and could in time rival Christian Democrats as the main party of their right. As part of this policy he brought in a number of rightist groups, merging the MSI with the Italian Democratic Party of Monarchist Unity, readmitting a hardline splinter group called New Order, and adding establishment figures such as Admiral Gino Birindli and General Giovanni De Lorenzo as members. The policy faltered as the MSI made very few inroads into Christian Democrat support, and instead pushed the mainstream right towards an accommodation with the Italian Communist Party. As a consequence, some of the moderate faction split off to form the National Democracy in 1977. Despite the policy's failure to deliver at the ballot box, under Almirante's leadership the MSI did emerge to an extent from the political wilderness, as in 1984. He was allowed to enter the headquarters of the Communist Party in order to pay respects to their dead leader, Enrico Berlinguer, a gesture once unimaginable for an MSI leader. However, his newly moderate approach brought him into conflict with Rorty, and clashes between the two became a feature of the annual party conferences. He also represented the MSI in Parliament, although he was stripped of parliamentary immunity 3 times. In 1979, he was charged with trying to revive the fascist party, and in 1981 and 1984, when he was charged with aiding and abetting Carlo Cicottini, who had fled Italy after a 1972 car bomb that killed 3 policemen. Like in the 1940s, he was exonerated under an amnesty. Due to poor health, he stepped down as leader at the 1987 National Congress and saw the leadership pass to his protégé Gianfranco Fini. Fini had been close to Almirante since 1977, when Almirante had Fini appointed chief of the MSI youth movement, even though he had only finished 7th in the members' vote. As Almirante's successor, Fini followed in Almirante's footsteps of attempting to shift Italy from a parliamentary system to a fully presidential one. Giorgio Almirante died on May 22, 1988, in Rome, Italy, at the age of 73, on the same weekend as former Italian fascist leaders Dino Grandi and Pino Romualdi. Grandi and Romualdi died on May 21, and Almirante died the following day.